Dan, I was going to ask you a bit about the success of the development sides last year, but I guess, and it's my first time at this facility, right. I guess this place has got a lot to do with it, encouraging that kind of club atmosphere, that club environment around England.
Yeah, we've been so lucky. It's 6 years old now, St George's Park. I've been in place about 5 years, just over 5 years, and I think any of my predecessors that have done the job, it must have been with their hands tied behind the back, because this has really given us a wonderful opportunity. We have 16 teams that come under the jurisdiction of the technical division, 28 teams in total, and it just enables the coaches to share ideas. We can put down a framework or a pathway for our young players that's really connected. Gareth's office is next to the National Coaches Office, which is next to my office. Gareth shares with Adi Boothroyd and Steve Holland. So it's a really good way of connecting the pathway, and not least on training camps, when all the teams are here, and invariably the players will move and train with different teams. So again, up to the senior team, Gareth will have a look at 2 or 3 of the younger development players on a regular basis. So as you say, it just gives us an opportunity to get more of a club feel and a wonderful investment from our point of view.
And we've heard recent generations, perhaps golden generations of England players, talking about how their club rivalries, they found it difficult to leave them at the door when they showed up at the England camp. It feels like you're doing something about that here.
Yeah, I wasn't
particularly
around.
With the youngsters.
Involved. Yeah, I wasn't around, wasn't involved. But the whole thing sort of started 5 or 6 years ago. Was that I'd come from club football and didn't really know what international football and success at international football looked like. So we did a bit of research on, what does success look like. We looked at 9 other countries, so the top 10 countries in around the world, so 3 from South America, 7 from Europe, and sort of wheeled down of they've won at senior level. What did that look like across their development pathway? And there's 2 things that came out really strongly. One was success at junior level does correlate to success at senior level. Germany and Spain did really well at junior tournaments before they broke through and won at seniors, for example. And the other thing was cap accumulation was important. So I remember at the time, the German players that had transitioned to the senior team had got around about 60 international caps. Ours had got about 30. So what we needed to do was expand the programme. So we started in under 15s, reintroduced the 18s, reintroduced the 20s, and we're a bit more creative around the fixture programme. So we started at Toulon again, for example, which would give you American, South American, African and Asian opposition on a regular basis. We take our under 16s to Brazil. So really to try and give them those experiences, to give them the capability to be successful senior internationals, and that's in the male and female game.
Let's talk about another FA facility. Is Wembley for sale?
Well, yeah, I don't know. All I know is we've received an offer, which the board are considering. I know I'm not privy to those particular conversations. That's at board level. I've got enough on my plate preparing for a World Cup and under 17 Euros.
You are concerned with the development of the game, though, and we do understand that should the FA receive a windfall from a potential sale of Wembley, the money would be spent on the grassroots and game development. Can you tell me something about what that means?
Well, I mean, if you're asking me as technical director, would I embrace the fact that the grassroots programme was stronger? There was more boys and girls playing football on better facilities, and therefore more and better standard of players coming through to the professional clubs who recruit from the grassroots, and then we recruit from the professional clubs for international football. Yes, of course I'd be pleased. Every single one of our players, every single one of our coaches started their career in the grassroots game. We should never forget that. So if those experiences are, they're magical and they're positive, you're likely to stay in the game. And every player in any of our teams, their first experience in football is there. So if an investment into grassroots football, which means that there's more and better pitches and we improve the coaching in there, would I embrace that? Yes, of course I would.
And so how would money from a potential Wembley sale be distributed then? Do you see it as, paying for a new stand in a local club, or do you see it as putting professional coaches in schools, or how would it be spent?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't know. I don't know. That's not my jurisdiction. That would be down to the board. What I can tell you is that what we currently do. So there's currently a big investment going into hub sites, for example, into facilities around. So it's not as if we're not doing anything at the moment. We've got a lot of money that's spent through our county FAs that invest in charter standard clubs, level 1, level 2 coaching. We've revamped all of the level 1, level 2 coaching qualifications, trained all the tutors. So there's a lot of work that goes on at grassroots. We have 300 plus mentors that go around and support coaches in the grassroots game. We have something called Hive Learning, which supports a lot of coaches remotely. We have our DNA website on the the FA at 5 to 11s, which gives volunteer mums and dads some session planners and a curriculum. I know what it's like if they're coming back from a busy week of work and they've got a session to prepare for the next day. They need some help and support. So lots and lots of really good things going on in the grassroots game that's enabled our game to grow.
I understand it's not your department, but as an England
But you're
fan,
not going to let it go, are you?
as an England fan, do you feel completely relaxed about selling the home of English football, about not having the keys to it here at St George's Park?
Well, if you look at it, we've got 16 teams, as I said, and only one of those teams really plays any games at Wembley, which is the men's senior team. The women's senior team have played the odd one, but not many. If you look at the number of games that the men's senior team play at Wembley, it's about 5 a year. And the other thing is that we're not saying, I don't think anybody's saying that they'll no longer play at Wembley. We've successfully taken a couple of games on the road. We went pre-Euros to Sunderland and Manchester. We've got one coming up at Leeds. We work really hard with our women's teams and our men's development teams, taking them on the road around the country from Plymouth to Middlesbrough in order to try and engage the country and give them the opportunity to see England play. The most important thing when you put it all into perspective for me is that St George's Park is where the development goes on for international teams. That's where we train, that's where we spend the majority of our time, and 5 games a year across our 16 England teams are played at Wembley. So actually, when you look at it in the rounds, the majority of the time is spent here or on the road or at tournaments.
But the FA's turned it into a great venue, a good working business. That's why somebody wants to buy it. It doesn't feel like we're selling the crown jewels?
Look, I don't know. It's a board decision. All I know is that there's an offer coming that the board has been put to the board to consider. I don't know any more of the details on it.
We talked about the benefit that this facility has had for the England team at the development stages. I'm sure the technical director's got something to do with that as well. But what's been a brilliant year for you on the pitch, brilliant 18 months for you on the pitch, has been a pretty desperate year for you in terms of matters off the pitch. It's been a kind of a paradox that you've burnished your reputation in terms of your management of the game, but you've suffered terribly in terms of your management of affairs off the pitch. Would you agree with that analysis? Well,
I think you're talking about one situation. So if that correlates to your synopsis of that, then fine. Yeah, there's been a difficult moment with one particular incident around the women's senior team. I accept that. But I think if you're in any sort of leadership position, you have to accept that there's going to be bumps in the road, and there's going to have to be things that, lessons learned, and we need to make sure that we move on and, we learn from those mistakes and we make sure it doesn't happen again, and that's part of my role. So you're right to flag that, it was a difficult time for all of us, I think, as well as the positive times on the pitch. We just need to make sure that doesn't happen again.
And if you're involved in the England setup at any level and you experience any kind of harassment or bullying, are you going to protect that person?
Well, what we didn't have in place was grievance and whistleblowing policies. That was the big lesson learned from us.
You were in charge of the whistleblowing policy, and somebody did blow the whistle and you let them down, is one way of looking at it.
Well, you could look at it like that, but you should also look at, across the FA in general, about having the right grievance and whistleblowing policies. They weren't in place. We didn't have the right protection. So yes, of course, I have to take some responsibility from that. But they are all in place now. So the teams are aware, and the players are well aware of where they would need to go should they need any help and support, and what the process is, as are the coaches.
Are we going to win the World Cup?
Whenever. Or
next time, it's later in Russia.
And I talk about, assuming
again, I know it's not your department, strictly speaking, but what do you think the prospects are?
This one is. We've got lots of World Cups that we're entering across the different teams, but if you're talking specifically about men's Russia, look, we still haven't finalised the squad because the Premier League season, FA Cup, potential Champions League and Europa League, there's still some fixtures to play. So hopefully all of the players will stay fit and they'll be in good shape, and we'll get our full squad. So until we finalise the squad, we won't truly know where we are. Have we got players that are talented enough to get to the latter stage of the World Cup? Yes, we have. It's anything between 3 and 7 games. It's a knockout competition once you get to game 4. There's a lot of things that can happen. I don't think it's impossible that we can win the World Cup. Absolutely not. We're ranked 13 in the world. It might be a bit of surprise to the bookies if we did win it, but I think we're capable of winning it, yes.
And do you think we might see some of that atmosphere that you've created and that team ethos that you've developed start to come through to the senior side this year?
Well, I haven't. We have. There's a lot of people that have gone, are involved in this. We've got some really talented individuals and coaches, and it's a combined ethos and culture with players and staff. So it's not mine; it's ours. I think we can be really proud that we've shown as a game, and I would include the professional game and the grassroots game in that we've got some talent. We've got some talented players and some talented coaches. And go back to something I said earlier, is that part of this plan was to put some confidence into the young players that, when they go and compete on the world stage, and our under-17s who won the World Cup, they beat Brazil in the semi-final, Spain in the final, that the first time that they're competing against Brazil is in Russia in the quarterfinals for Gareth, then we've got a problem. We want to try and give them the confidence that they can compete against Brazil in various age groups and have the confidence to know that we can beat them, and put together some experiences that will bode well. In answer to your question, I think we've made some progress in connecting the pathway. Gareth has been instrumental in that. As ex-under-21 coach, he knew all of the development teams. He was instrumental in writing the DNA and the pathway that we have. He knows all the young players, and he's probably been the key individual to that.